lot of cloud cover throughout the year. And these clouds are um, condensing on the grasses and also the forest, and they are forming water droplets and they percolate into the soil, and they actually eventually giving rise to streams, and these streams are coming downstream and forming the rivers. So actually these forests and the grasslands are acting as a water reservoir to the entire area surrounding it. Yeah, and also it's not just the trees in the Shola forest, but also the grasslands are contributing to this water reservoir thing, because the grasses are also helping in the condensation of the cloud cover, and the soil in the under the grasses are actually storing this water, and it is helping the um, year-round availability of water in the streams. So if you go to a Shola forest in the high altitude region, you can see even from every patch of the Shola, there will be some stream coming out of it. So that is the actual importance of this landscape. Now we can look into the distribution of the Shola grassland ecosystem. Like I said, it's found in the high altitude regions, that is above 1400 meters. And it is only found in the southern Western Ghats, in the states of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka. And it's only forming a small part of the entire Western Ghats region, that is around 3% only. From the map, it is clear. You can see the red spots, that is the high altitude region. You can see on the northern side, there is Baba Budan Hills, then Kudremukh, Pushpagiri. Coming south, we have Brahmagiri, Wayanad, and here we have Nilgiri Hills. Excuse me, is the map visible now? I hope it's visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, something had happened, I think. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So these are the regions where the Shola grasslands are present. So in the central region, we have a large patch of this ecosystem, that is in the Nilgiri Hills. We have, that is Nilgiris, you must have heard, near the Ooty, Kotagiri region. We have a large area of this ecosystem. And coming further south, we have Anamalais, and down that we have Palni Hills and the Megamalai Hills. And in the southernmost region, we have the Agastya Malai or the Ashambu Hills. So these are the regions where this Shola grassland ecosystem is present. So we were saying that this is an very unique ecosystem, that two entirely different habitats are coexisting in a similar environmental or climatic conditions. So how this is possible? The Clement's monoclimatic theory does not actually support this concept. So earlier it was believed that this grasslands formed because of some human or anthropogenic activities. The theory is like this. There used to be a lot of human habitations in this landscape before. So they had lot of cattle. These cattle used to graze in this area, and also they used to do a lot of agricultural activities like slash and burn agriculture. In slash and burn agriculture, what they do is they cut down the forest, they do the agriculture, they burn that area, then they start agriculture, and then they leave the land barren for few years, then they again come back to that area, again cut down the trees, again burn that area, again do the agriculture. So this is like a cycle. So it was believed that due to these activities, the forest area fragmented into grassland and Shola forest. Sorry, I think the slides are not visible. Can you see the fire slide with the fire?
Yes, ma'am. I can see it.
Yes, Anjitha. Yes.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Anjita, I think you can cast your entire screen. It may work.
Sorry.
There is an option there in cast training where you can actually cast your entire screen so that it will load it.
Sorry, I'm not very clear. Um, okay, at least I can see when I change the slide. Just tell me if it's visible. Is that fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we can continue now. So that was the earlier theory that human activities caused fragmentation of the forest and the formation of the grasslands. But later studies found that these grasslands and forests were present there even before human habitations actually started. So then they started this question how this thing happened naturally. There were a lot of other theories like the soil condition was different in the grassland and the Shola forest, and it's like the soil depth and the nutrient conditions. They said that the nutrient in the Sholas formed where it was rich in nutrients and the soil depth was high, and grasslands formed where soil depth was low. And this was a theory which is based on this edaphic conditions. But later on, it was found that this is not the soil conditions also. Because when we look into the history of this landscape, we can find that there has been some cyclical shifts in the dominant vegetation cover over the past centuries, past lot of years maybe. So around 20,000 to 16,000 years ago, the climate was very arid. During this time, the vegetation was dominated by the C4 plants, which is capable of sustaining in the high temperature conditions and in the high light intensity conditions. And there were only few Shola patches that is restricted to the humid valleys only. And then later, around 11,000 years ago, climate became more wet, and then the sholas expanded. The C3 plants, which is in the shola, that composition got expanded, and the sholas also expanded. And again, before 6,000 years ago, it became more arid, and that has led to the current pattern that is we are witnessing right now. So climate definitely is contributing to the pattern of the vegetation that is present in the Shola grasslands. And also later only we actually found what was the actual reason behind this. So there was a study which is done by a group of researchers. What they did was they took two pots, one with grassland soil and the other with Shola soil, and they put this in the grassland, and then they sow the seeds of Syzygium grande, that is a native Shola forest species, and they put this pots in the grassland and also in the Shola forest so that they can study the climate and also the edaphic characters. Uh, we are showing the next slide now. Okay, yeah. From the figure, it must be clear that when we look into the germination of the seeds in the grassland and in the Shola, we can say the germination is not much different, both in the grassland and Shola. But when we look into the survival probability, that is the establishment of the seedlings, we can see that in the grassland, the establishment is very low. It can see that graph. the black color in the second graph, we can see that it is showing a decreasing probability, survival probability for that Syzygium grande in the grassland. At the same time, in the Shola, also the survival probability is decreasing, but it is not becoming zero. It is still there. That means the trees can still survive in the Shola forest, but they cannot establish in the grasslands. They did the similar study for an exotic species, that is Acacia myansi. And what was found that the germination rate was also quite similar in grassland and Shola, and it is high compared to the native species. And when we look into their establishment or survival probability, we can say that the survival probability is almost same for the species in the grassland and also in the Shola forest. So that may be the reason that we will see in the later slides that the exotic species like Acacia myansi are invading into the grasslands. That is, they are capable of establishing and expanding into the grasslands. At the same time, the Shola forests are constrained to the valleys and they are not able to expand into the grasslands. That is why this line, this separating line is always existing between the grassland and the Shola forest. And also there are other minor characters like the slope of that, the topographic features like slope, aspect, and soil factors are also contributing. And we are coming to the next slide. We will discuss about the flora of this region. This ecosystem is very unique for the sorry. The slide has some issues. I think this slide now. Okay. This landscape is harboring a lot of endemic flora. We can say that there are plant species both of tropical and temperate affinities. When we look into the periphery of the Shola fragments or maybe some isolated trees on the grasslands like the rubus, daphyllum, and urea, we can say these have some temperate affinities evolutionarily, and also the rhododendron berberis and mahonia have some subtropical affinities in their origin. But when we look into the interior of the Shola fragments, we can see they are Indo-Malayan or Indian in origin. So we can say like the interior tree species are more adapted to the humid and wet conditions, while the tree species that is found on the periphery and also in the grassland are more adapted to the cold and dry conditions. And also you can see in the picture this Strobilanthus kunthiana. It's called Neelakurinni. There is a mass flowering of this plant in every 12 years. So this is giving a blue tint to the hills. And when we look into the origin of the term Nilagiri, which means blue mountains, it actually came from the mass flowering of this species in some years. Now we move on to the next slide. The Shola grassland, the fauna of the Shola grasslands. Like I said, it has a lot of endemic species, not only flora, but also fauna. We have Nilagiri tar, which is a flagship species of this landscape. It is a threatened species also, and it's found only in the grasslands. It feeds on the fresh grasses, and yeah, it's one of the flagship species of this landscape. Also, we have a lot of amphibian species that is endemic to this area. We can say like more than 20 species of frogs are found unique to this landscape. And we have some reptiles like Anomalous spiny lizard, which is an arboreal lizard found in the Shola grasslands above 1500 meters only. And also there are a lot of birds like Nilgiri laughing thrush, Banasura laughing thrush, then white-billed shola, black and orange flycatcher. These are all endemic to this landscape. And we also have other mammals like elephants, tigers, and leopards, Nilgiri marten, and lot of small carnivores. So this is actually harboring lot of, this is home to a lot of fauna also. And why this kind of endemism is present in this landscape, we can explain that by a theory called sky island theory. You must have heard about this term, sky islands. Sky islands are actually isolated mountains. These mountains, because they are isolated, they develop, they cause a lot of divergent evolution of different species suitable to that local conditions. So from the figure, it is clear that there are multiple mountains which are isolated and they develop different habitats, but maybe similar in nature also. And they have some species that is unique to that isolated mountain. So when you look into the map, you can see down south we have the Ashambu Hills, and that Ashambu Hills are separated from the Palani or Meghamalai Hills by the Shengote Gap. Shengote, actually, Western Ghats is not a continuous range. It has some gaps in between. The Shengote Gap is a gap which is the narrowest gap in Western Ghats. It is around 7.5 kilometers in wide. And also, when we look into the Nilgiris and the Anamalays, these two sky islands are separated by the Palghat Gap. Palghat Gap is actually the largest gap in the Western Ghats, which is around 40 kilometers. So in the larger scale, we can say like these gaps are separating these mountains, and they are acting as, these mountains being isolated are acting as sky islands. It is in the larger scale, but also in the finer scale, we can see that this Shola grasslands, their topography is very undulating and there are a lot of Shola patches. So movement between these patches are also difficult. So even in the finer scale, some mountains within this larger landscape is also acting as sky islands. Now we can look into a study conducted by Purushothaman and Robin 2016. They look into the diversity of laughing thrushes and Shola killies. They studied the laughing thrushes and Shola killie based on their morphometry, their genetics. These are songbirds, so they compared their songs also. And what they found was there are actually 4 species of laughing thrushes and 3 species of Shola killie in southern Western Ghats. And they traced their distribution. And what they found was the Banasura laughing thrush is found in the Wayanad region. And then south in the Nilgiris, we have Nilgiri laughing thrush. And in the Anamalai and Palani region, we have another one, Palani laughing thrush. And in the further south, in the Ashambu region, we have Ashambu laughing thrush. So this is how the sky islands are helping in the species evolution in laughing thrushes. And when we look into the Shola killie, it was earlier called short wings, but later they were named Shola killie. We can say that in the Nilgiri region, we have the Nilgiri Shola killie, and in the Anamalai Palani region, we have white-bellied Shola killie. And in the further south, we have Ashambu Shola killie. So these laughing thrushes, when they studied, what they found was these laughing thrushes are not actually related to other laughing thrushes in in India. So they came up with a new genus, that is montane. And also for the short wings are more similar, not more similar to the flycatchers compared to the other short wings, and they came up with the Cholicola genus. So this may be actually maybe the first study in the in situ evolution of the divergent evolution of birds in India or in Western Ghats. Coming to next slide. We can say that the Nilgiri tar, and we also have the rhododendron in the high altitude grasslands. But do they have some Himalayan connection? During the Quaternary Ice Age, which was about 2.6 million years ago, the entire subcontinent was very cold. And the Himalayan tar we have in the Himalayas, they moved or they expanded to the south till the Western Ghats during that period. And later it became more arid and more humid. The temperature rised after the ice age. Then some individuals got stuck in the Western Ghats, and then they later evolved into a new species, that is Nilgiri tar. And because of or in search of their suitable habitats, because of rising temperature, they moved up into the top of the hills, and now they are restricted to the upper ranges of the southern Western Ghats, and they are the Nilgiri tar. And similar thing happened with the rhododendron species also. In Nilgiris, we have the rhododendron arboreum subspecies Nilgiricum. But in Himalayas, we have other species of rhododendron. This rhododendron also has some Himalayan connection. Coming to next slide. Till now, we were discussing about how unique was this landscape. But what is the future of this beautiful and unique landscape? We can, from the studies, we can say that over the last 45 years, like from 1973 to 2017, there was a loss of 516 square kilometers of grasslands, which is about 38% of the total Shola Grassland, and also 63 square kilometer of the Shola forest in the Western Ghats. There was this huge loss in the past 45 years. So what is driving this loss of habitats? Is it some natural process or some anthropogenic activities are accelerating this process? We can look into how humans have influenced this landscape in the past. So we are coming to the next slide. We can look into the human history of this landscape. The first human occupations in Western Ghats started around 12,000 years ago during the Paleolithic period. And later, around 3,000 to 5,000 years ago, they started agri-pastoralism. Then they started grazing, and also, like we were discussing, the slash and burn agriculture they started. And there were some minor anthropogenic activities that's going on. So it was comparatively a minor effect on this ecosystem. But the large scale changes actually happened during the 1800s, when the British started to establish large scale commercial plantations of cash crops, the tea plantations and the exotic eucalyptus acacia plantations for various purposes. Initially, they started the tea plantations in the Shola forest. They cut down the Shola forest and they established the tea plantations there, because the Shola soils are more nutrient rich and they are easy to establish. And then later they found that even the grasslands are suitable for the tea plantations, and then they expanded it to the tea plantation. Sorry, they expanded it to the grasslands. Since grasslands were considered as wastelands, so it was not a problem that time. So large-scale tea plantations got established in the Nilgiris, in the Animalays, in most of the high-altitude regions. And later on, large-scale agriculture also started in Nilgiris, especially the vegetables we call like English vegetables like broccoli, carrots, beetroots, cauliflower, etc. And they started using a lot of fertilizers and pesticides that is also polluting the streams, the water bodies there. And along with all these developmental activities, lot of urban development was also happening. Lot of human settlements started coming up, and then this started tourism. Especially all of you must have heard about Ooty, which is a very famous tourist destination in India. So large scale unsustainable level of urban expansion and tourism is currently going on this, especially in Nilgiris. So next slide. What is the major threat to this landscape? We can say that it's because of the super colonizers. That is the exotic tree plantations that we had established here during the British period, which is of acacia, pine, and eucalyptus. Like we saw in the previous slides, that these exotic trees are capable of expanding into the grasslands compared to the native trees. So after the plantation activities, which was carried out by the British and also later by the social forestry program of the forest department, they started propagating on their own. They started invading the grasslands. When you go to Ooty, you must have been to Ooty. You must have seen a lot of pine forest there and eucalyptus, which has become the face of Ooty now. But these are actually invasive plants or planted species in this landscape. They started affecting the hydrological cycle and alter the microclimate there, impacting the biodiversity. They decreased the food for the wild animals, increased fire incidents also, and also causing soil erosions in this landscape. So this was a study. Sorry. Yeah. Coming to next slide. There was a study based on the remote sensing technology. They looked into the evolution of the land use over the past years. From 1973 to 2017, they studied, and what they found was lot of grasslands have been converted or invaded by the exotic trees. You can see in the figure itself, in 1973, there were less area under exotic trees, that is in the dark pink color. But coming to 2017, large area have been invaded by this exotic trees. Around 1995, there was this law which has passed to prevent, to stop plantation of exotic trees. And then later on, what happened? They started invasion. After the plantation also, they started invasion. So this is what is happening. In the first three slides, first three figures, we have situation of Animalays and, Nilgiris, and the below that we have the situation of Animalay Palani region. So in both these large landscapes, we can see that exotic trees are expanding. Coming to next slide. So what are the other major threats to this landscape other than maybe exotic trees? We can say is climate change. Climate change and exotic tree invasion are acting hand by hand actually, because climate change is increasing the temperature, and during warming temperature, the survival probability of the trees increases. For the native tree species also, And also for the acacia, the sapling seedling establishment is high in the warming period, but it is higher for acacia compared to the native species. So when the climate change increases or the temperature increases due to climate change, the establishment or expansion of the exotic trees is also increasing. And also climate change is affecting the phenology of the plants there, which is affecting the other animals also. So in multiple ways, climate change is influencing this high altitude and unique landscape. We saw that Nilgiri tar is a flagship and unique species of this landscape. And there are a lot of activities, managemental activities that has been carried out for the conservation of this species, like controlled burning of the landscape, controlled burning of the grasslands. The Nilgiri tar feed on the grasslands, the fresh grasses. So to provide food for this threatened species, the forest managers burn the grasslands in a controlled manner so that new sprouts of the grasses will come up in the next few months. But this kind of controlled burning is affecting smaller invertebrates like grasshoppers. There was a study being carried out in Iravikulam National Park and in Paramikulam Tiger Reserve. And it was found that large-scale burning of the grassland, which is carried out in the Iravikulam, like they burn entire stretch of 50-hectare area in one go. And also they start the fire from the periphery of that circle. And it's like from the periphery, the fire is coming to the center so that not much other collateral damages won't be there. But this kind of large-scale burning is affecting the grasshoppers. But the similar study was done in Paramikulam, where small-scale controlled burning was happening. Here it was found that even though it's affecting the grasshoppers, their diversity or their population is coming up very fast. So we can do controlled burning or any kind of managemental activities that is focused on this charismatic species, but we can do it in a manner which is also supporting the smaller species like grasshoppers. This controlled burning also has some positive influence, like it can actually help the control the expansion of exotic species into the grasslands if you burn the grasslands. And also this new grasses that is coming up which provide food for not only tar but also for other larger herbivores like elephants and goats, so that their conflict with the like elephant conflict with surrounding areas will be reduced. So all these management activities should be done in a manner which care for both the larger animals and also for the smaller animals. So there was one study on the anomalized spiny lizard, which was carried out by myself in Iravikulam National Park. So the study was comparing the population of this anomalized spiny lizard in the Shola forest and also in the tea plantations, which is a modified habitat for the lizard. This is an arboreal lizard, and previous study had found that the density of the lizard is almost similar in the Shola forest and grassland. So I looked into the factors that what was the factors that is influencing the population of this lizard in multiple habitats. I classified Shola into two categories: undisturbed, that is Shola away from the plantation, and then disturbed, that Shola close to the tea plantations, and then tea plantations. What I found was the density was higher in the disturbed habitat compared to undisturbed habitat and also the tea plantations. And within the tea plantations, the density was higher in plantations which is close to the Shola forest compared to plantations away from the Shola forest, which might be indicating that these lizards are using the tea plantations as a refuge, or they are moving out of the Shola into the tea plantations, or they are acting as a sink population. And also it was found that these lizards are found in tea plantations with the shade trees only. So if there are tea plantations, finer level studies in a species, we can, using the studies, we can actually design the management of the landscape in a way that actually supports the survival of the particular species. There are a lot of studies that has been carried out in this unique landscape over the past few years. This was based on a study in 2012, and it actually compared the studies that has been carried out in this landscape. And what they found was flora of this landscape, mammals and birds are well studied, but other taxa like fishes are not much studied in this landscape. Also, most of the studies were focused on description and distribution and ecology of this different taxa. But the biogeographical or phylogenetic studies or restoration-based studies are very less in this landscape. And also, we can say most of the studies are descriptive in nature and species-specific studies. But for the conservation of a particular landscape, we have to study the multiple aspects of that landscape. So we need more of a larger, a long-term and multi-aspect studies to be carried out in this landscape to better understand this landscape and also to plan future conservation strategies. Coming to next slide. So you can see in this cartoon that which is saying that this Shola grasslands are being destroyed due to various anthropogenic activities. So how we can help in the restoration of this or the survival of this unique landscape? We have to restore the lost habitats. For that, we have to do scientific studies and identify suitable sites, maybe using remote sensing technologies. And also we have to select suitable species. The species might be, it could be different for different area, like Shola grassland is very undulating and the aspect is playing a very important role. So maybe a particular aspect like the northeastern aspect is more cooler or more cool compared to the southwestern aspect. So maybe cooler climate preferring species are found in the northeastern aspect compared to the southwestern aspect. So we have to select the suitable tree species accordingly. And also we have to definitely we have to prevent the invasion of the exotic species like acacia or eucalyptus. We have to adopt multiple strategies for different species. For maybe acacia, we can prevent the expansion, like controlling the invasive friend. Like maybe we can pluck out the new seedlings or saplings coming out other than cutting down the bigger trees. So it's like this, we have to adopt multiple strategies for multiple species to prevent the expansion of this into the grasslands, especially in protected areas, including the Mukurti also. And like we said, we need a long-term ecosystem level studies to understand the landscape in a much better way. Yeah. Like I was saying, we have to identify the suitable species for a particular region for restoration activities. So there are some studies being carried out in this aspect also. So it's very interesting, and it is found that the slope and soil depth is influencing the above ground biomass, that how much it is capable of growing. But at the same time, the species composition was influenced by the aspect, like we were discussed in the previous slide. So it's very interesting to learn that a lot of studies are being carried out in this aspect also. So yeah, that was about study. And if you have any questions, we can proceed.